What's up, everybody? My name is Brandon McCollum, also known as BMixC, and this is Nice Minds. I am joined today by Sterling Banks, a very, very talented artist that I've been familiar with for about a year. How are you doing, Sterling?
I am doing very well. How are you doing?
I am doing great considering this crazy-ass year. It's just been insane.
It has.
So I got familiar with you on Instagram last year. I think we followed each other, and then we've just been kind of like back and forth, like appreciating each other's work. And I feel like as far as your artistry goes, from when I heard you even a year ago, you've just been improving like by the day. You've just been like elevating and elevating and elevating, and the new stuff that I've been hearing has just been incredible. Why don't you give everybody a background how you got started in music and stuff?
Music has always really been a part of my life. I took 20 years of classical piano starting at the age of 5. So it's always been there. And then in my early college years, I was in a handful of bands. Um, and last year, when COVID hit, I decided I had to kind of redesign how my company was going to work. I do like photography, videography, graphic design, that kind of stuff. And that's not really a service you need in the middle of a pandemic. So I decided I was going to redesign how my company was going to work and how it was going to look. And so I thought I would get into the marketing of artists. And I thought, what better way than to use myself as a guinea pig? So I got back into doing music that way and kind of fell in love with it and haven't left since.
You're actually managed by Miles now, right?
I am, yes.
That's amazing. He's a buddy of mine. We go back a few years. How's that been going so far?
It's been really amazing. I know, especially this early in my career, I've heard from a lot of people about how you don't need a manager yet and this and that. But to me, the amount of effort he's put into my brand, the amount of help I've gotten from him, the amount of knowledge that I've received from working with him has just like you said, it's elevated so much for me. So I would definitely say it has been exactly what I manifested. I asked for it at the beginning of the year when I was doing my New Year's stuff. I said, I need a team. And along came Miles, and now we're working together.
That's amazing. I actually talked about him a lot in the episode I did with Amanda Yang because she's good friends with him and she
Hmm.
works with him a lot. And we were both talking about how he's just a whiz kid. I mean, like he's 10 years younger than me, I think, or right around 10 years younger than me. But I swear I learn way more from him than he probably does from me. Every time I see the dude, I just like soak up all of his knowledge because he's just a brainiac. He knows like everything there is to know about the industry.
A good person to have on the team for sure.
Yeah, and I saw that you've done a lot of music videos recently. Like how many videos have you shot?
So we have two that are completely shot and finished. We have a handful that are started that aren't finished yet. We're waiting on different shoot dates to finalize things, but I have been really focused this year on the visual aspect. I know at the beginning of the year, I released my debut album. So I've been kind of letting that breathe and released a couple of videos under that project. And now I'm just pushing out, well, none of them have been released yet, but I have cranked out so many singles that all have visuals with them already. So I can really plan and be prepared when I do drop this stuff. I have the record, I have the visual for it too, and have all of the rollout ready for it.
That's dope. And did I see that you just started making your own beats too?
I did. Miles pushed me. Miles, it was an ongoing thing where we were struggling with exclusives because I'm sure you know getting exclusives are wildly expensive, and not having the exclusives really limits you. And Miles just kept saying, "You're so musically talented. Why don't you make your own beats?" And so I tried. I started, and I really hated it. It was awful. I struggled really hard. I didn't understand what I was doing. And then once I kind of gritted down and sat down for a week and watched an asinine amount of YouTube tutorials and played within the program. And now I'm just cranking out beats. I've done 30 beats in the last 2 weeks, just cranking them
Damn.
out.
That's what's up. That's impressive. That's crazy. No, I'm jealous because I wish that I would have had that musical knowledge before getting into making beats because I have all of the DAW knowledge. I mean, I can work my way around Logic and Pro Tools and Reason and all this stuff, and I have the sound selection down because that comes from like years of ear training, but I just don't have that the magic on the keys like you do. So I'm jealous. Like I feel like you're probably, even though I've been making beats for 18 years now, I feel like you're gonna surpass me probably in the next couple weeks, and your shit's just gonna be crazy. It's just gonna be insane. And you're even getting into like automation and all that stuff.
Yes, I learned automation. I messed with it a little bit way back when I was in bands in my early college years. I used Ableton, and so I messed with it a little bit that way because, like, I have the MIDI keyboard and stuff. But once I figured it out within, so I use FL Studio, and once I figured it out in there, I was like, "What? All of the things I could
Yeah.
do."
It's incredible. It's really dope. I mean, it really opens up the whole world basically. I didn't even really discover automation until I went to IPR, which was like 10 years after I started making beats. So yeah, I mean, you're already like miles ahead of me where I was when I first started. So I can't wait to hear what you cook up. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned that you started making beats because you were running into issues getting exclusives and stuff like that. What type of other creative hurdles have you maybe faced in the last couple years, like especially since COVID hit and stuff?
I would say shows coming to a stop obviously is a huge one with COVID.
Totally.
For me, that's the hardest part. I'm like born and bred to be on stage. It's where I want to be, it's where I feel most comfortable. So, not being able to perform as often as I want to perform really sucks. I struggled a lot with a lot of the administrative work that comes with it, but Miles has really, really helped me through all of that. Either taking care of stuff that I have no desire to learn or teaching me the things that I do have a desire to learn about. So figuring out all of that stuff. Other than that, I'm very much rooted in like, I really hate having to rely on other people.
Yeah.
So once I run into an issue, I'm usually like, okay, well, I'll just learn how to do it myself. Like
Yep.
I learned how to engineer myself, and I actually started engineering down at the studio once I learned how to do that. But I learned how to engineer myself. I learned how to mix and master. I'm now learning how to make beats. I'm learning all this stuff because I don't want to rely on anybody else. It's a lot easier to just do it yourself.
Hell yeah. That's super dope. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same, except I'm such a slow learner that it takes me forever. So I'm jealous of anybody that can like pick something up and just like learn it right away. Because it just takes me forever. I mean, I'm still trying to master all of the things that I do. But no, I totally feel that not having to rely on anybody and wanting to do everything yourself because I'm kind of the same way.
It's great to have a team around you. Like, I definitely don't want to discount having the team there to help you
Yep.
out and to play different roles. But if push comes to shove and you have to do it yourself, then you're not held back and not able to put things out because you can't do it yourself. So
Yeah, because I just noticed that you guys have really been building a strong team. I mean, you got your photographer. What's her name again? I've met her once before. Miles, the one that Miles is dating.
Tana,
Tana, yeah, and she shot the music videos, right, that you did?
she shot the On the Run video. That one's really cool. It's with Steve Flow. He's from Minnesota too. You might or might not know him. He's from further down south Minnesota. He and I do a lot of work together. Actually, we vibe really well on our music. But she shot the On the Run video, which is really cool. It's like based off of the Rocky movie. I do the whole
Oh,
like
that's dope.
Rocky
Yeah.
montage, climbing to the top of the stairs. I ran from St. Paul to Minneapolis. It was the worst. Miles made me do a lot of running, and I was very sore for like a week afterwards.
When's that video dropping?
I started editing it last week. So once I get it done, and I like to usually sit for a couple days after doing an edit so I can view it with fresh eyes and not be so immersed in it because I'll sit for hours and hours and edit. So I like to usually set it down for a couple days once I have the initial edit done, and then come back with some fresh eyes and go over it again. But that one in the next, I would say, like month to 2 months is going to drop. Um, and then I have one record that I did for my mom that's going to drop on Mother's Day. That one's going to be really awesome because actually all of the money that's generated off of that will be uh, donated to, it's called LSI Brumwood. It's a place here down in Iowa where it's kind of like foster, like a government foster care system for kids. I had experiences with them when I was growing up. So all of the money will be donated to there. It's a wonderful program. They really helped me out. I mean, look how well I turned out.
That's super awesome. I love donating to causes, so I'll definitely yeah, send me the link and I'll throw in a little bit too. I would love to help out any way I can. So you've lived in Minneapolis and in Iowa, right? So do you kind of go back and forth? Did you grow up in Iowa?
I grew up in Iowa. I lived in Minneapolis for 3 years, and I'm currently back in Iowa, but I spend so much time like my daughter still lives up in Minneapolis, so I'm either going up there all the time or she comes down here, but I spend a lot of time up in Minneapolis still. They're both my home. I'm just currently working out of Iowa.
And Iowa seems to have this like really slept on music culture down there, like music scene that nobody really knows about. Everybody hears about Minneapolis and the Twin Cities and stuff, but I feel like there's a lot of talent, a lot of untapped talent in Iowa.
Absolutely. There's a lot of us here that are working hard to get Iowa on the map. Like Iowa has so much dope talent that usually a lot of people that are really talented end up leaving. I'm probably going to end up leaving. I don't imagine I'll stay here forever, but there is so much talent here. Even the people that stay, there's still so much talent here.
So if you end up leaving, where's your dream? Like where do you want to end up?
Somewhere warm.
Yeah, same, same. The winters up here are no freaking joke. I'm originally from California.
Ooh.
I moved here when I was almost 9, and at first I was super excited to move up here because, we had family up here, and we would road trip up here like every summer, pretty much. So I was already really familiar with Minnesota. So I was like my mom just kind of got it in my head to be excited for it. So I was like hella stoked, and then I got here and I'm like, this sucks. I want to move back to
So
California
cold.
so bad. I'm like, this is terrible. It's cold and the people are stuck up and I hate this. I mean, I love Minnesota. As I got older, I have a lot more respect and love for this state, and I love Minneapolis, and I love going up north and all that stuff. I love all that Minnesota has to offer except for the winters.
The Midwest is amazing. It's always going to be my home. I spent a lot of time growing up in Wisconsin also. So just everywhere in the Midwest is really home to me. I love it
Right.
here, but I definitely want somewhere warm, probably like Spain.
That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy. Have you ever been overseas?
No, I've been out of the country, just like right across borders, a couple places. I love the island. Jamaica was such a dope trip,
I've been in Jamaica.
and
It's dope.
the vibe there is so amazing.
Hell
So I
yeah.
wouldn't mind Jamaica either, but you gotta like
Yeah.
live on a resort, I guess. I don't know if I could fork out that much money.
Right.
Maybe when
Yeah.
I'm rich and famous.
So what are your ultimate career goals? I mean, we talked about like moving places. Like where do you want to end up like career wise in like 4 or 5 years by like 2025?
I definitely want to be touring. I know I'm going to try and do a short tour this fall if things have opened back up. Fingers crossed. I would really love to get in a short tour this year, but I would love to be touring, doing music full time. I know I kind of do now anyway, but just continuing to build my brand and grow my platform and be able to speak to people. That's kind of like always been my end goal of why I wanted a platform. Like, yeah, like money. Who doesn't? But
Right.
I definitely think having a platform to be able to reach people and speak to people and change people is the most important reason for me. I personally believe that like music is a language, it doesn't necessarily have to be a language that you speak. It can be in a foreign language. It can be in a genre you don't like. Like, as long as a song moves you, then it moves you. So I think that if you can speak to people and change them with your music, then you can change the world. And that's what I would like to do. I'm also an entrepreneur, so I would like to continue to invest outside of the music industry. I want to invest in real estate and the service industry and all types of, like, the fashion industry, just quirky shit. I don't know. I want to invest. I'm an entrepreneur.
My big thing is mental health. I mean, I really want to help inspire people to, come out of their shell, defeat their anxiety, get over, mental hurdles and all the things that hold them back from living the life that they truly want to live and they truly dream of living. That's that's my ultimate goal. So that's kind of the idea behind this podcast and me even calling my company Nice Guy Entertainment, to kind of bring that friendly vibe, that inspirational thing that younger people need. And speaking of younger people, what would you say to like a young woman who has similar dreams, with like musical aspirations, but who's just getting started? What would be like your main advice for them?
I would say work hard. Don't let other people's opinions affect how you feel about your music or how you decide how you're going to put out your music. I know, especially for women, that is something we run into a lot in the music industry, where we are predisposed to kind of have this sexual vibe to make it. And I don't like, and I think now, especially with a lot of the pioneers, women pioneers that have been paving the way for all of us women artists to really break that barrier and make it so that you can be successful in whatever way you want. But I do think being able to put out your music how you want to. I know something I struggle with is I often hear that my rapping is not necessarily receivable because it's aggressive and kind of manly. But I'm like, that's what's comfortable to me.
Yeah.
And that's what sounds good to me. And that's what comes out of me. So I suppose I take it with a grain of salt. I do try and tweak things here and there to have it be the most receivable it can be without losing my style and my sense of self and what makes me unique to my sound. So, being able to take criticism and use it how you can without losing yourself, and never being afraid to ask for help. I would always say ask for help. Some people aren't going to give it, and that sucks. But there are so many people within the industry that are willing to shed all of the knowledge that they had to go through and learn, and they're willing to just share that with you. So always reach out to people and ask. I mean, the worst that can happen is they say no and they don't tell you, but you're not going to miss any chances if you take them.
Exactly. I can't believe that people's biggest criticism of you is that you're too aggressive. Like, what? I mean, I don't get that vibe from you at all.
Maybe a little intimidating. That's probably what it is.
I suppose you intimidate people, make people feel like they need to go back to the drawing board and write better shit.
So I do want to check in on your progress of cigarettes. How far along are you on that now?
Of quitting?
Yeah.
10 years? Yeah, November 1st of 2010.
Jeez. You are my inspiration. I quit for a while and then I go back and then I quit and then I go back.
Yeah, I quit when I was 25, and it was literally the hardest thing I ever did. I mean, I was a pack and a half a day smoker. I mean, it was brutally hard for me. I mean, especially like with my anxiety and my mental health. Anytime I would get stressed out or anxious, I would, pick up a pack. Or it was also when I'd be hanging out with like any uh girls I was interested in. That was the thing. Like I'd be like, it was like every time I was trying to quit, I would start dating a girl that smoked, and it would be like right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I got lucky that this last time I met my girlfriend who I've been dating the last 10 years, like 6 days after I quit. And we went on our first date like a month into like quitting. And so like I remember our first date, I was like, I want a cigarette, and she's like, don't do it, don't do it. And I'm like, all right, I won't. And that just like kept me going, over like and I just like it, you know, weeks turned into months, and then it just got easier and easier. But I mean, it's all mind over matter. It's really all just like just having the will to do it, just being like, I'm gonna do
Hmm.
this and sticking to it. And also it helps too if like if you have a week or two that you can like you're like clear your schedule.
Disengage from everybody.
Yeah, disengage from everybody and everything, if that's a possibility for you to like go, on a vacation, or like I don't know, stay at a hotel or an Airbnb or something, and just like seclude yourself and don't have any smokes with you or anything like that. That would be helpful too. Um because yeah, I know like for smokers, like anything triggers us, like being around people smoking, being at restaurants or
Seeing it on
bars, seeing
TV.
it on TV. I mean, yeah. I mean, that is like the only time these days that I'll think about it again, is seeing it on TV, like seeing it in like a movie or a show, like watching Shameless, where they're like always smoking. And so I'm like, damn, like I kind of want a cigarette, but I won't. I mean, I'm fully confident that I'll never have another one, but really, yeah, it's mind over matter. It's just like one day at a time, literally. Like, I mean, I think it's the same thing. I mean, I've never been addicted to anything else like that, but I
Yeah.
imagine it's the same thing with like heavy drugs and stuff. Like just one day at a time, mind over matter, like positive affirmations that you can give yourself and all that stuff.
Hmm. Can I ask you a question? I just
Yeah, for
did.
sure.
I am going to ask you a question.
No doubt.
What is the biggest barrier you hope to break in the mental health stigma via your podcast and your work and your advocacy?
That is a really, really good question that I thought about at the beginning of this, but I haven't thought about in a while. Um, the biggest stigma I think would be for men to feel free to be vulnerable and to talk about mental
That part.
health. And to to get rid of toxic masculinity in the sense where like I think a lot of, I don't know for sure, but I think a lot of toxic masculinity comes from men who struggle with mental health and don't have ways to combat it in a healthy way, I guess. So I think that's the biggest thing, is to just break that stigma.
I don't know how we women can ally in that. I would love to be an ally in that. I feel like anytime a woman says toxic masculinity, it immediately like shuts down the conversation.
See, that's ridiculous, because that's when we should listen the most. That's when we should be listening and not talking, not interjecting our opinions. Because I think when it comes to toxic masculinity, women know the most about it, and women receive it the most.
It's interesting too to see the flip side. Obviously, like I'm a woman, so I'm on the total other end of the spectrum of that. But it's interesting to see how ingrained we have become with it, that it feels normal for us women to receive it. And I think that's one of the ways that we can also, as women, ally in that and combat that, is to not let it happen and not say that it's okay and stand up and be like, no, like we had a video shoot, and a situation occurred where a girl was doing something and a guy tried to like move in to show her how she should position herself, and she was just like, oh no, no, thank you, maybe like a girl can show me how. And just like, and I was floored at how, like, if I had been in that situation, I wouldn't have said anything, I wouldn't have done anything, I would have let it happen, and it wouldn't have bothered me either, which is bothersome.
Right.
I think it goes both ways. I think women being able to stand up and identify it as something that is happening in our lives at a radical pace that we need to be like, whoa, I'm actually not cool with that.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
And I don't think he was being very malicious about it either. He was just trying to be helpful in the situation. But the way the situation transpired, I mean, I messaged her afterwards and applauded her. I was like, I really like how you handled that. Like, that's really cool for you to stand up for your boundaries. And maybe that's fucked up that I'm even having to like applaud you for that, because that should just be something that we all do.
Right. I get what you're saying. But I think that until it becomes normalized for women to be able to feel free to speak up, I think it should be applauded. I think things like that, you should say that to, to your fellow women, when you see and witness something like that, because I think it'll encourage that to continue, and for her to be able to feel comfortable to maybe speak up in the future. I mean, maybe she probably already does in general, but I think it helps. I think it definitely helps to point those things out for sure.
Well, I appreciate all the men who combat against toxic masculinity and just all of that. The mental health, I do think that, no offense, I think men struggle with mental health a little
Oh,
more
no
than
doubt.
women do. And so when I see men being active advocates for that, I'm like, yes, thank you. Thank you. Men will listen to men better than they listen to women for whatever reason. I mean, I could shout from the rooftop how important mental health is, and not all the men are going to get it.
Yep, I totally agree. But it's something that I'm continually learning about. I mean, my girlfriend keeps me in check. I mean, she keeps me in check when it comes to that shit. So I mean, she'll, like, if I say anything, like, she'll point it out right away, and she'll be like, "That right there," like a base. I've had to learn, um, and I'm still learning, uh, to get rid of my toxic traits, and recognize that they're toxic traits. And I don't know if I was ever extreme, because I've always kind of been a feminist. But it's definitely stuff that's like, I think it's kind of engraved in men's brains from like society and from growing up and stuff like that. It's just things that we have to unlearn, and I think we have to admit that we need to unlearn them, and we have to be, like I said, vulnerable enough to realize that they're issues, you know, and listen to women
Mhm.
when they tell us that they're issues that need to be changed and corrected.
I do think toxicity goes across the board, though. I think that I struggle with a lot of really toxic behaviors that in the last like 5 years, I really have put my foot down and been like, okay, this is really fucking toxic. And I need to recognize that. Now that I've recognized that, I need to work on that and not do that in the future and communicate to people in my past and in my future that, hey, this is me and I'm working on it. So I do think toxicity goes across the board. It's not just the men that have things that they need to work on. It's everybody in general has things that they need to work on. And I think it's important to me when I think of mental health. I think the most important thing is to be able to not only communicate with yourself and have that conversation with yourself, but being able to communicate with others. Like, I know the last couple of relationships I was in over the last like 5, 6 years, I had a lot of toxic behaviors. However, in the beginning, I was like, full disclosure, I kind of have these toxic behaviors and I'm not entirely sure if I'm willing to work through them yet. So just so you know, a step in the right direction. I think now more so, I've gotten a lot better at controlling listening. Like you said, I think that's one of my worst toxic traits is that I will, when somebody is talking, even while they are still talking, I'm already over here thinking about what my response is going to be, and I'm not listening to what they're saying. So for me, been one of my biggest ones is listening. Just stop and listen to what they're saying and respond based off of what they said, not what I'm thinking and how I received what they said.
Especially with this podcast, I've had to kind of learn the power of like truly listening. Because I mean, I always struggled with like ADD and stuff like that. So that has always been my thing too. Is like when people are talking, I'm like trying to think of what to say next, so the conversation keeps moving along. And it's not necessarily to to be toxic or anything like that. It's just my own like ADD and like trying to pay attention and trying to like you know seem like I'm with it and seem like I'm coherent and give a coherent response and stuff like that. So I definitely can relate to that for sure. Definitely. But yeah, I mean I agree that toxicity goes across the board, but at the same time I feel like it's up to men to deal with our toxicity at large.
I'm really rooting for the day when like therapy is the same as going to a doctor or a
Oh, for
dentist.
sure.
Like it's
Yeah.
just something that we all do. I'm like, I see a therapist. Shit, I see two therapists. Like
Yep.
I need my therapy. I need my time to be able to work it out. And I think everybody should have a therapist. And I preach that to everybody I talk to.
Oh
Like, get a
yeah.
therapist. Like I can help you as much as I can help you, but get a therapist.
For sure.
When society as a whole really opens up to that, specifically maybe like our government and the healthcare could
Mhm.
like hook us up with therapy,
That'd be
that
sweet.
would be cool.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, because I mean, I tried when I was younger, when I was a teenager. I mean, I went to like counselors and stuff, and saw uh, did forms of therapy. But as an adult, I've kind of struggled with finding good therapy because I tried going to somebody like 2 or 3 years ago, and they ended up wanting like my insurance didn't fully cover it, and they wanted like 250 out of pocket per session.
No.
Like what? Like what? Like $500 for 2 sessions? Are you kidding me?
Uh-huh. I'll just cry on the floor of my shower instead. Thank
Yeah, like
you.
straight up. Like I mean, that was ridiculous. And she was like talking about wanting to see me like every week. Like, no, I'm not paying $1,000 a month for therapy out of pocket. Sorry, that's not gonna happen right now. So yeah, I think especially like with adults, like we need to have just more options and know our options and know like what our insurance covers and what it doesn't cover, or have it explained to us a little more. I just think it needs to be normalized. It need every like you said, everybody needs a therapist for sure.
Although finding your perfect therapist is like hard. I went through many therapists. I was like, yeah, I went to therapy as a child and a young adult. And to me, that really elevated my thought process around mental health. And that's how I feel like I can be an advocate because I see many people like in my age bracket, slightly older, slightly younger, that don't understand how to work through these things. And I'm like, yo, you need to like talk about it. And like here are some basic tips from going to years of therapy, how I can help you. Like it's shocking to me that people don't they lack the basic skills to be able to work through things. And to me, it's just always been something I've known how to do because I've been in therapy all my life. So
Yeah.
again, I think therapy absolutely needs to be normalized, and it needs to be easy to find a therapist
Yep.
that's right for you. Because I went through many therapists before I found my therapist, and I've been seeing him since I was 14, and I can't imagine seeing other therapists. Like I've just put in so much work there, you know. So, and that's an excuse I hear from a lot of people as well on why they don't stick with therapy, because they don't like their therapist and they saw him a couple times but they didn't like him. I'm like, well, choose a different one then, you know. Like you got to find them. But I feel like it should be easier for people to find a therapist that works for them. Like, can we get Tinder for therapists?
Right? That's funny. Yeah, I mean, well, it's not funny. I mean, I do agree with that should be a thing. That should definitely be a thing. If somebody can invent that, that would be fantastic. Cause yeah, I don't. I mean, I like to be honest with you, I haven't really researched it lately, but I don't know where to go for like good, affordable therapy right now. Like I don't really know where to turn to it. So I just kind of use my own coping, mechanisms like exercise and trying to eat right and self love and all the stuff that they suggest you do.
When I was in Minneapolis, I saw a therapist while I was in Minneapolis, and I went through care counseling. If that is helpful at all,
Okay.
they have buildings all over the cities, so you can find one that's like close to you, or one further away if you find a therapist at a different one that you like. But they have them all over the cities. It's called care counseling, and that's who I went through. And I found a lady there that I would still see her if I could, but I don't have Minnesota insurance anymore, so I can't see her.
I appreciate you mentioning that on here because if anybody else is struggling with mental health stuff, it's good to know where they can get help because yeah, I mean, and I'm glad that we're talking about this right now because I've really thought about it lately. I didn't really realize until recently just how much the pandemic has kind of added to my anxiety, and I just find myself having panic attacks when I like I guess get out of my routine, and that's not healthy.
Well, it's been such a shutdown of social interaction,
Yep.
and it's pushed us. I mean, I know we're still like on social media and we're still able to interact with each other, but I know you and I have had that conversation before of how toxic social media can be
Oh
and
yeah,
how
100%.
like regulated you need to be with it in your life. And so when that's all you have and you don't have any other social interactions, like it's you're I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I go out and I'm like, ah.
Doing this podcast has really helped with that too. Connecting with people, even just like face to face via a computer, really helps with that and helps me kind of like get out of my comfort zone that I've found myself in. Um, because yeah, I really just need to get out of my comfort zone and need to start. Things need to open back up, and I need to start going to more social gatherings and um studio sessions again and all that stuff because yeah it's been too long since I've done any of that.
What are you most looking forward to once everything opens back up?
To be honest, to just going to different studios and working with people, that in-person collaboration is what I really miss. How about you?
Traveling.
Yeah, oh
I
yeah,
was
traveling too.
so excited to spend the year traveling. I wanted to travel somewhere every single month, even if it was just somewhere nowhere big deal or anything. I wanted to travel somewhere every month. And I guess I kind of still have ish, but it's so limited that you can't
Right.
go many places, you can't do many things. And so I'm definitely looking forward to traveling again. I need to be out and about and meeting new people and seeing new sights and learning new cultures. And I gotta get out there. I can't be cooped up in the Midwest like this.
Right before the pandemic, in January of 2020, me and my girlfriend went to California, and she had a trip planned to Mexico, that was actually right before the pandemic. But I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna miss the first time that you see the ocean. Like, we have to go to California before you go to Mexico because I'm not gonna." Because her trip was through. She sells makeup through this company called Lime Life, so her trip, like, she won the trip through that. So I was like, not, I wasn't going, so I was like, there's no way I'm gonna miss you seeing the ocean. And it was dope, and she like fell in love with California. So now, like, through the whole pandemic, that's all we've been talking about and thinking about is like, when can we go to California next and have there not be restrictions and be able to like, eat an In-N-Out burger and go to all the
Mhm.
places and all of the things. So that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to as well is going to California and having maybe a longer vacation with my girlfriend out there and maybe driving up the coast.
Fingers crossed it happens soon.
Fingers crossed for sure.
And then when everything opens, I will come up to Minneapolis and we can collaborate on something in
I would
person.
love to. I would love to. We need to definitely figure out something that we can collaborate on.
Do you rap?
I do. You never heard any of my stuff?
I don't think so.
No, yeah, I haven't really pursued it in a long time because I started Nice Guy Entertainment as a record label in 2015, and basically right when I got started I put out a mixtape, but then after that I got super busy with helping artists and booking shows, and I got kind of like known as like the show guy, so I put all of my solo music to the side, and I guess I kind of just
Mhm.
got out of the habit of like pursuing my artistry. So I still write and I still do verses and stuff like that. I mean, I write like I'm always thinking of lyrics. I mean, I have like tons of stuff. But yeah, I do. I'm a songwriter.
Please send me some of your stuff. This is like a hidden gem I didn't know. I knew you made beats. I knew you did the podcast stuff and the nice guy stuff, but I didn't know you did music too.
No, have you seen any of the episodes of this podcast?
I went and looked up the one with Miles after
Okay.
you told me you'd done one with Miles.
The theme song to this podcast was the last song that I put out as a rapper. I just used the beat for the theme for this podcast.
Oh.
It's a dope track. I'm actually really proud of it. I actually opened up some of my songs that I've kind of been sitting on today, and I was like vibing to myself, and I'm like, damn, I need to get back to this. I need to, because I mean that was my first love with music was as a rapper. I mean, I started as a rapper. Like that's what led me to like everything I do now. And then I started making beats like shortly after, like a year and a half after I started rapping, or like something like that. And then I got more so known for my beats after that, and then I started Nice Guy Entertainment, and then it turned into like me helping everybody else but myself. So I would love to kind of get back into it and take it seriously again.
I love looking back at old music and vibing out to it, but also being like, wow, I was such trash, but it's actually really low key kind of good.
Right? Yeah, I mean, I and that's me too. Is I'm such a bad perfectionist too that it's like literally hard for me to finish anything because I don't want to put out trash. I think that's my problem. Is like I think
Oh, I
everything
have no shame.
uh, well that I mean, but you're good though. Like you're really dope. But yeah, I think my thing is just like I'm so critical of my own stuff that I didn't put things out,
Who gives a fuck?
right?
You should.
Right?
When I first started rapping, I was in a band called Lady Spade, and it went through many different progressions of people. Like it started as me and this girl, and we were like acoustic indie duo on guitars and shit, and then it turned into a full band, and we were doing acoustic hip hop, and then the band fell apart and it was just me and the drummer, and we did electroacoustic hip hop, which was fucking weird. And at that point we just like flipped the script on everything. Like ICP had clown face paint for all of our shows. It was like a super circusy theme, like fucking weird. But everybody loved it because we were just up there having the best time. It was like actually kind of good. Like if you listen to the music and the words and you connected with it, like it wasn't bad at all. It was strange. It was very strange. Go look it up, Lady
Yeah, is
Spade.
there anything I can find? Is it on streaming?
It's on streaming. Yep, we put out an album called Thank You for Your Patience. Um, and then we have, I think there's like, we did one music video, and it's very like, you would think it was some theater kids gone crazy. Like,
That's dope.
it's strange shit, but we had fun and people around here loved it. I mean, we had such a big following and such a good turnaround on that. Like people loved it. So I would say that would be my advice to young people. I take back what I said earlier. My advice is don't give a shit, put it out. There's a lot of people who put out a lot of trash music, and some of them are making millions of dollars right now. So
Right?
put out your trash music. You're only gonna get better.
That's true. That is great advice, and I mean that's something that like people like Gary Vee always say too. Is like just put out everything, and because once you put out quantity, the quality will come over time. You'll start to kind of figure out what people like from you, and like how, what you're good at, what your strengths are, and all that stuff. And if you never put anything out, like nobody's hearing anything, so like how can you know if people are going to like it or not? I mean, because that's very true, and that's something I think about too. So I think I'm going to really try to make it a priority to put out something, over the next, like, this year. I kind of joke with myself because I'm kind of on a 6-year streak anyway. And my 6 years since I put a body of work out is this year. So when I first started in 2003, I put out like an album that nobody will ever hear because it's just awful. It's terrible. And then it took me like 6 more years. I put out an album that people actually liked called Mr. Nice Guy. And then another 6 years, like after like I just a bunch of life stuff. I had like got a driver's license finally, got a real job finally, got like went back to school. Then when I went back to school, 2015, 6 years later, I put out my mixtape. So that was 6 years ago. So now I'm on. I think it's time for me to put out another because I'm on that
It's
6 year cycle,
time.
and hopefully I can, maybe at 36 years old, I can finally break this 6 year cycle that I've been going on the last 18 fucking years now. Holy shit, 18, half my life. That's crazy. Oh my god, I literally just realized that that 6 year streak has literally led me to like half my life I've been doing this shit. Wow. Wow, self-realization. That's crazy. I need to put out shit.
I'm gonna hold you accountable to it. I'm gonna bug you every
Please,
so often. I'm just gonna like
please.
creep up into your DMs like, "Hey, you released anything
Yeah,
lately?"
like every Monday be like, "Yo, how's that shit coming along? How's your how are the tracks coming along? How's the music coming along?" Like just every Monday I want you to be my Siri. Write your shit notification.
I got you. I will do that.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Any closing statements you would like to leave everybody?
Shameless plug, go follow me at Sterling Banks Baby on all social media platforms. My music is on all streaming platforms. Be on the lookout for new dope shit coming.
Hells yeah. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you again for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.